evening. Welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable live stream digital media show. I'm your host, U.S. Army Combat Medic and Flight Surgeon, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold, MD, U.S. Army National Guard retired. We have a very special guest panelist, Dr. Paul R. Lawrence, who is an American governmental officer, also a businessman, author, and retired Airborne qualified Army captain who received the Meritorious Service Medal. He earned his BA in economics from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and his MA and PhD in economics from the University of Virginia Tech. Paul served in the Army in the Finance Corps and then as a partner in several major private accounting firms. Paul is an expert in change management for large organizations. Paul previously served as the 7th Undersecretary of Veterans Affairs for Benefits from 2018 to 2021 under President Trump's first term. He is now serving as the 11th United States Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs since congressional confirmation on March 27, 2025. Paul provided a prior interview on the America's Heroes Group on January 18, 2020, so that Cliff Kelly extends to you his best regards and hello. He's happy to see you back. But welcome, Paul, and thank you for such honorable and outstanding service to our country. You've demonstrated this repeatedly as throughout your career. But one of the things, tell us about your new role as Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs and what that means to you.
Sure, I absolutely will, but I want to do a little correction on the intro. It was, it was perfectly awesome and accurate. However, I did not retire from the Army. I fulfilled my ROTC requirement and I left as a captain. So I just want to be clear on that one. But everything else was accurate.
Right.
The Deputy Secretary is, as you imagine, the #2 person in the organization. Deputy Secretary is charged by law to be the Chief Operating Officer, to be responsible for processes and governance and executing the Secretary's directive. So in many ways, you help the Secretary do what his agenda is, what the President's agenda is. You oversee governance, align people, follow the EOs and the like. And you're right, my history, having served in the VA before in the first Trump administration, gives me tremendous insights as Undersecretary, but also more broadly, there's 3 administrations, so I have to also pay attention to Veterans Health Administration, providing health care to our veterans, and the National Cemeteries, providing memorial services and the like to our veterans. So it's a wide portfolio. As you know, we're the 2nd largest federal agency in terms of the number of employees and the like. So it's a really big challenge, and it's an exciting time, quite frankly, because President Trump really, cares about our veterans, has really charged us to, as the Secretary would say, take care of veterans.
Yeah, and I'm just really awed by your history of your academic training, but also your insight into organizational management. And so I'm just looking for great things to happen. So what has the Department of Veterans Affairs accomplished the first 100 days of the 2nd Trump administration?
Certainly. Well, there's been a lot of accomplishments in the entire administration, but at the VA, there have been some pretty exciting things. We've opened 9 new clinics to provide more health care to our veterans. We've reviewed a whole series of contracts and cut those that weren't providing mission critical services so we could provide more care to veterans. We stopped remote work. We want everybody in the office because we think they're just more productive and they're better employees, for example. We've accelerated the electronic health record. I mean, you can imagine how important, as a doctor, how important a great electronic health record is. We've stumbled some, and we're intent on following the Secretary's vision, which is let's get this going and do it faster. So we're working on that. We processed more disability claims in a short period of time than I think in a long time. We're driving the backlog down. And also, quite frankly, we stopped some of the divisive things before, like DE&I, got rid of those employees, and we saved $14 million. And all the savings are redirected towards care. So it's been exciting, but it's certainly not the end. I guess I'd call it a launch pad. So I hope you'll come back and let me tell you about the next 100 days. And our
you certainly will. Yes. But really, it's incredible because I mean, you did you had so many accomplishments in your first administration with President Trump. When you were doing the benefits, you saw some really great changes happen even during that time period. So really good to see you back in the seat. But VA healthcare has been on the Government Accountability Office's high risk list since 2015, and and it sort of goes along with what you've been saying about government efficiency and making sure things are operating correctly. But what do you think? Why do you think it's so important to reform the Department of Veterans Affairs?
Certainly. I'm really glad you pointed out the GAO high risk list. So for folks who don't know, right, this is the organization that reviews government performance broadly, charged by Congress, and they have a high risk list. Some of the most organizations that are really struggling to meet their mission. And VA's been on that for 10 years, citing things like potential for fraud, waste, and abuse, inefficiencies, and the like. So really, when you think about it, Secretary was very clear. He had two choices. We can kind of muddle along, or we can do something about it. And that was his directive to us. We're going to do something about this. We're not going to continue to kick the can down and be satisfied with service that, as even GAO points out, really should be better. So we're intent on dealing with that directly, streamlining, potentially reorganizing. A lot of it's still being thought through, but we think it's really important that veterans get really great care. I would say world-class care from the VA. And you can understand this, right? President Trump has charged us to go do this. He's brought generational change to Washington, and we think it should carry forth at VA. And quite frankly, and I'll end on this point, just think about what happens when we ask a person to enlist. Say, enlist in the military, defend our country, and oh, by the way, we want to have the very best military in the world, the very, very best. And when you come back and you're a veteran, we want that care to be equal to that, not okay, not average, and certainly not on the high risk list. So we're intent on, bringing it up so it equals what we required of service members during their service.
Really great. It sounds like you have a good heart for veterans too, and that's why I'm so glad that you're in the position you're in right now. Is the VA opening new facilities across the country? To service our veterans, because I've been hearing some rumors about that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked about that, because first let's deal with the rumors, and let's be clear up front. We are not cutting healthcare or benefits. So if someone tells you the opposite, that is just not true. So please help us correct them. But in the last since inauguration, we've opened 9 facilities. I have a list here: Colorado, New York, Virginia, Texas, Montana, and Kansas and Ohio. And we're opening more. I got to get the count. I think if you ask me this next week, it'll be 10. So we are opening facilities because we're very sensitive to getting our veterans care. We like it if they can get to our facilities quickly, but if not, remember, President Trump in his first term passed the Mission Act, community care. So if you have to drive too far, we can't get you in quickly enough, we'll get you care where you are. So we're really serious about, providing care in a way that's convenient and accessible for our veterans.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Because, many times veterans have to, travel a little bit, but but it looks like you're, pushing things in the right direction, and many of the veterans, have disabilities, some of them, and then their family members as well, are, sort of dealing with that issue. But what is the greatest joy you have working at the VA? Because it sounds like you have been entrenched yourself in this in this milieu that you've been operating within for some time now, doing some great things.
Well, this is a hard question because I will be honest with you, there's a lot of very positive things. This is serving veterans is amongst the most satisfying things I've ever done, professionally rewarding, personally rewarding. But if you ask me to describe the moment, right, the moment that really you go back and say, this was really good. I talk to a lot of veterans, right, in town halls and in meetings and the like, and even online. The moment happens when a veteran says, something isn't working right in the system. Complaint is too strong a word, but they're pointing something out. Maybe my disability claim wasn't processed fast enough, or I'm not getting care the way I imagined. And so what I do with those is try to figure out what happened in this situation. So certainly let's correct it for the veteran. But most importantly, now that I'm the deputy secretary and the chief operator, dig behind this and said, is this happening for other veterans? And if so, let's fix that problem and let's make service better, not just for one person, one veteran, but all the folks who might be having this problem. So it's really satisfying to get direct feedback from our veterans to figure out what's happening in our system and then go and unravel it and realize it could be better. Perhaps we make some changes, perhaps we're more clear in the explanation, perhaps a whole lot of things, because our intention is to deliver world-class care. And so the feedback and the ability to operationalize that is really pretty powerful. And those are amongst the most rewarding moments.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, because with your background, it's just incredible, with really organizational design, really. You're doing that as well as, organizational, competency, making sure that people are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, for our veterans. Because as you said, when veterans come back, they really deserve great care. Many of them have really gone to the last degree of, making personal sacrifices for the country, as you have too in your job, because I can't even imagine what you go through on a daily basis with your background. But what about this whole thing about the Veterans Affairs? Your new role. What do you see as challenges, or do you think that people need to understand that we need to move forward?
Sure. I guess what I would say is, yes, we understand the situation and we're working hard to deal with it, right? So we know we've fallen short in some places. So for example, the high risk list, we know the previous team, the Biden team, I don't think was as veteran focused as we are. In fact, I don't think that. I believe that strongly. So we are really trying to remind veterans that under President Trump's leadership, under Secretary Collins's leadership, we are serious about what we are undertaking, and we really want the care to be better. Our intention is to, generate savings, hire more doctors, more healthcare providers, more claims processors, so service is better. And so you're very nice to compliment me, and I appreciate that. But don't forget, I work with an awesome team. We have a very great secretary who's pretty much is a veteran himself, so that really helps, as well as the team around him. So it's really what you're seeing happening is a function of a team. And don't forget, we have about 450,000 employees, and the very overwhelming vast majority of them are awesome. Many are veterans, and they're committed to the mission. So it's just a matter of getting us all rolling in the right directions. And so, I hope you'll invite me back so I can tell you more about our successes.
Oh, we definitely will. I think because it's really important for people to hear this. They need to know that, people in government now, at least, are doing things that are really in their best interest and benefit, that benefits them down the road as these changes are being implemented. So, you actually were with the ROTC program. So this really started a long time ago. And I can't, anytime I have a veteran on, I always talk about, their family members as well. You had a father who was a Korean and a Vietnam War veteran. And he told you one time, mission first and men always.
Right.
So how did that guide you? I mean,
yeah, really powerfully. Of course, now we would say mission first, people always, but don't forget, he served in the early 50s to mid 70s. So it was a different time, right?
Yes,
but I think what really I came to understand was the mission is really important. You must do everything you can to complete the mission. And obviously you want to care for your team, right? So the two things are not replacements, but simultaneous. And I just think it really got me focused on, what makes a team great? What makes our military great? Is that mission focus? What we'll use to make VA great or greater is this mission focus. So it's really powerful language that I think about all the time.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to the younger people who are out there, as far as, coming into service and also, serving in the administration?
Well, certainly. So I encourage all young people, anybody at the right age, to think about joining the military, enlisting the military. I think it's really powerful to serve your country, and that's really how it works. Our way of life depends upon volunteers. So I'd encourage everybody to think about it. And if you have the chance to come and serve in an administration that you feel passionately about, please do. I think it's really important that we understand that, we are citizens. the secretary. We are citizens serving in government. The ethics people would say, I'm borrowing this job. It isn't my job. It's the job of this organization. So I think people need to understand that's how our government works. So please participate. You'll learn quite a bit. You'll have experiences that are unrivaled anywhere in the private sector. And I think, quite frankly, it'll be something you talk about for the rest of your life. Answering the question you asked me a minute ago, what were your best accomplishments? Yeah, you'll earn some money maybe, and that'll go away and you'll spend it. But you'll look back at the time you served our country in uniform or in an administration as amongst the very best things you've ever done.
Yes. And what would you, tell people who are, veterans who are out there who are, looking, for the things that, the benefits and the things that changes as you're implementing them, to hold on maybe, to understand that this is something that's, key to you, right?
Yeah, well, I remind veterans because they often forget that part of your service, you've earned a series of benefits, right? Healthcare, maybe, depending upon your situation, but certainly the monetary benefits of the GI Bill, perhaps, of the home loan guarantee, of disability compensation. I mean, these are really things that can help what I call veterans accelerate their pursuit of the American dream, right? Imagine going to college with no college debt, which is really a big deal. So I encourage them to learn about those, get assistance applying and the like. Yes, service is good now. We think it can be a lot better. So I'd be telling them, be prepared for things to be better. And finally, I point out, if maybe you had a discouraging moment and you just threw your hands up and said, oh, I don't want to deal with the VA anymore, it's too hard, please come back. It is better. Give us a second chance because, it is really our intention to deliver world-class service.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So, as time goes on, what do you think are things that the country can sort of do to help veterans? Because many times people are trying to figure out what to do. I'm a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I'll go to a restaurant sometimes, and people will walk up and say, "Thank you for your service," or I've even had a couple of people pay, and I didn't even know they were paying for it, for my lunch and dinner, and that always gets my heart going to feel that. But what do people need to know about veterans? Because you are on the human side of it. I mean, because your decisions, you are actually intervening in their lives, their families' lives, and helping them. Mm-hmm. And what do people need to know about the people, that you're serving?
Yeah. I would say veterans are people too. If you don't have military folks in your life, understand the experience is different. Veterans are people. Maybe spend some time thinking about that. I'd also say, like you point out, people are always been appreciative. I had the same moment. I saw a World War II veteran in a restaurant. When he wasn't being attended by everybody, I went up and started talking to him. I thought maybe I'll buy his lunch. And before I could do it, the owner came out, delivered the lunch and said, "It's free. I'm paying for it." So everybody, I think people feel that sense of appreciation. But I'd also point out, veterans aren't victims. They're great employees. They tend to do better, according to the surveys, than other employees. So employers, I'd urge you to consider, hiring and retaining veterans. They do great as students. So if you have veterans in your college or university, be prepared for them to be on the honor roll and the like. But I think probably bottom line is veterans want an opportunity. Veterans want an opportunity. So if you never hired a veteran, hire a veteran and see what will happen to your company.
Right, because even your middle name, you got that from your uncle, who actually was killed in Normandy. So you're actually a member of a Gold Star family that really goes above and beyond the call of duty. When we have people who are in our family sacrifice their life, for the country, and I just say this speaks to your heart and your experiences. And we are a military family. So when I see yourself and, Secretary Collins with a military background, it really makes me feel great inside that we have that kind of leadership where people understand who veterans are.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. One of the things I was very critical of the Biden administration was the leaders of the VA were not veterans. I just think that, while not everybody here has to be a veteran, but there's something very special about being a veteran here. I couldn't imagine, the head of the Department of Justice not being a lawyer. but yet somehow we thought it was okay not to have people. And I do think it gives us special insight to what that experience is and what folks have done. So you're absolutely right. And you just told me something I never really thought about, that I'm a Gold Star family member. I never really thought about that. So I'm gonna have to thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yes, yes. That's a very important thing. It holds a very special place in our hearts. And, we have the Blue Star families as well who are out there. And that is something that needs to be put on a plaque in front of a home. And people need to know that there's a high price that people sometimes pay for this, for, serving the country. So is there anything else you want to, mention about what you're doing? Because I think your intersection with this is, almost like divine providence. I still believe in God, but to have someone with your background and your business skills, and to have someone who really has a strong basis in the merit of what they've done, to be put into this position is not just by accident. It's something that brings people to why they do what they do. And so how do you think your life has prepared you for this mission? Because it's just astounding to me when I start reading about Virginia Tech and, and your economics background and your ability to deal with the private sector with some really well-known agencies that you worked with, that practiced, business. These were they're not small organizations. So your skill to really have organizational management and understanding how things work is a critical component that I think, many of your predecessors in the last administration probably did not have.
Yeah. Well, you're too kind with your compliments, because I will point out there are others on the Secretary's team here at VA who have similar business experience and the like. So thank you very much. But, part of a great team, and that makes it easy. I guess the one thing, but, it is something I thought seriously about, right? And given the chance, the way the election worked, the chance to come back in a second time around and really continue the things we were doing in the first term, and work on to fix some of the problems that resulted while we were gone, is really pretty powerful. And I guess the one thing I would share with you, because I know you have a wide reach and your subscribers and your thing, I guess I'd ask for your help, helping us deal with homeless veterans. I know you've seen the signs at the stoplights. I like to leave you and your viewers with this number. It's our national call center for homeless veterans. And if you see somebody who you think might be a homeless veteran, if you call this number, we'll go find them and see if they are and get them help. So the number is, and I'll say it twice, 877-424-3838. Again, when you see somebody there, just pick up the phone and call us, 877-424-3838, and we'll figure out how we can help them if they're a veteran.
Thank you for saying that. It's almost like a dagger in my heart when I go down the street and I'm driving down the street and I see veterans who, are homeless. I used to bring food out to them underneath the viaducts and that kind of thing throughout the city. And we have, the stand downs where we, bring veterans in and help them in about our post, the American Legion, VFW, and other churches actually are participating in as well. But it would be our honor to get that message out and to make sure that what you're saying is heard over and over and over again. It's a shame, and I remember one particular veteran who was in southern Illinois, so he was close to the Tennessee border, but he actually was a farmer, and he had lost both of his legs and his right arm in the war. And when he came back, his wife had to work 3 jobs, and it was just heart-wrenching, to hear the story. And then you see veterans on the streets, and sometimes they're with family members, with children. So it's not just the veteran themselves, but it's an entire family sometimes. Right. So I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you're doing something about it finally.
Sure. Yeah. We have programs around housing, healthcare, employment services. And don't forget, it doesn't just have to be homeless. So, for example, the story I gave you, the person at the street, was certainly there. But if you have a friend or somebody you think is on the cusp of homelessness, we also deal with prevention. Maybe they lost their job sleeping on the couch, and that isn't going to end well. So again, either homeless or on the cusp of homeless, you can call for a friend. If someone listening to this who is homeless, they can call for themselves. So I'd ask for folks, your listenership, your viewership, to help us identify these folks, and so we can connect them with assistance.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we will make sure that we do that. And you can give the number one more time, and then we'll ask.
Certainly. 877-424-3838.
And as if your schedule is not busy enough, I know that you have a tendency to meet honor flights too. Maybe you can tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it's really moving experience. Really moving experience to meet the veterans who come into Washington, to see the memorial of the time they were in. So the honor flight I met about a month ago up at Baltimore, the BWI airport, had a couple World War II veterans, many Korean veterans, and a lot more Vietnam veterans. So many had caregivers, but it was just the most upbeat, enthusiastic, fun crowd. Everybody loves them. We had midshipmen come, and by the time we got to the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C., which began their tour, I think they said that day there were 14 other honor flights. There could have been 1,000 veterans there. They all had different colored T-shirts based on where they originated. It was just profoundly moving, and they're all upbeat, and lot of compliments for VA. But even the complaints, you could appreciate that generation. The complaints were so professional. That was just, and they were just an amazing group, and many had family members as their caregivers or the ones escorting them that day, and they were also veterans. So it was just profoundly moving.
Yeah, and I mean, when you were working on benefits back in 2018 on, I mean, we saw a definite positive movement in our benefits, movement as far as getting things done and those kinds of things. So we have to thank you for that very deeply. And people always, you always have complaints about things. If you if you were sitting down for lunch and you had a beautiful lunch and it was perfect, and then someone says, well, actually one of the crackers was a little stale.
Well,
they start moving on to other things, but the central things are.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I've regularly heard that, feedback is a gift. Well, I say every day at VA is Christmas, because lots of people have ideas about what we can do, enhance, improve. And so it's really good to have an engaged set of folks we work with and serve.
Yeah, excellent. Your professionalism just comes across to me as incredible. Just by the way you're saying things, I can tell that you have a good command of what you're doing. And as you were saying, it depends on your team too. You have a good team around you, but it also takes a good leader to be sitting there and doing the right things. So I have to really deeply thank you for that. Well, as far as the VA goes, are any wishes you have, visions for the great future, maybe the next 100 days?
Oh yeah, no, we have plans for the next 100 days. In fact, the running understanding is, how do you have a great 4 years? Well, you have a series of good 100 days over and over again, and they get increasingly better. So we have plans to make things better, and that's what we intend to do. So, our wishes are just focus and time. Congress has been very generous and gives us lots of money. The president has been very clear in what he wants to do. So it's just a matter of us doing it. So, we want everybody to be healthy and strong and focused.
Excellent. Yeah. And maybe you can give us that number again for the homeless veteran.
Sure. Well. Absolutely. The homeless veteran hotline is 877-424-3838. And again, you don't have to do anything. Just call us and say, corner of 5th and Main, for example, looks like a homeless veteran. In the parking lot of McDonald's, looks like a homeless veteran. Here, give us that information and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. And then you also have and maybe we can talk about this in the next 100 days, but you have a very incredible IT background as well, understanding IT systems and how those things function. And that would take another hour of conversation with all the things that you've done. But as I look at the veterans, and I go on this online for the VA system now, there are so many improvements that were made back in the 2018 timeframe, and now it's easier for us to navigate the system and to see things, which is really a wonderful thing. But we're running out of time as usual, which I am deeply sad about. I could talk to you for another hour. But anything else you want to say as we're closing out?
No, thank you for caring about our veterans. Thank you for spending so much of your energy on this. I love to come back and talk technology, especially how we're fixing and implementing the electronic health record and a whole series of other things we're doing to make the veteran experience, the customer experience just better. So thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Secretary, you are an icon. We're really happy and glad that you're in the office you're in right now. And, proven track record, but you're also proving the future too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
We'll have you back on.
Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 1 second until we're trying to get the actual president of Operation Honor on. All right, I'm getting told we're having technical difficulties. So, anyways, welcome to the mess. Hey.
Howdy.
All right.
Okay. All good. Hi, it's good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too. So for anybody that's not here, welcome to the madness. Michelle and I are running Operation Honor Rural Salute. I have been away from home for the last 3 months at a course out here in Fort Leavenworth, which luckily I'm graduating this Friday, so I will get to come home. But Michelle and I have a very large event coming up that I have been very out of the planning for. So we're actually using this as a little bit of work time for us to brain meld on stuff. So
yeah, we really haven't had much time to catch up on anything the last 3 months because this has been crazy. So for anybody not up to speed on Operation Honor Rural Salute, we are the only nonprofit in America that focuses on serving rural veterans and their families across the nation. And we do that by curating a resource library of specialized different resources, whether it's nonprofits, for-profits, whatever, as long as they serve rural veterans and their families and people can access them wherever they're at. They go in our database. And then we have an online community that rural veterans can utilize. They can see who is in their area because that's a really big deal is people don't get out and about to know what other veterans are out there. So they can do that, but then they can also get connected with subject matter experts. So if you have questions in homesteading or VA loans, financial literacy, all sorts of things, you can talk directly to somebody. And then our biggest thing that we do are these in-person festivals. So our next in-person festival is coming up June 7th.
Just around the corner.
Just around the corner. And this is the time of event planning where I start to sweat. I think every event planner does, until 2 days after. It's like one day after you still have the adrenaline rush, and then 2 days after you can kind of like look around and think like, what just happened? Yeah, but the basic idea of these festivals is basically to bring resources into rural America. So do the work that other people don't want to do. And we literally go out on a big festival celebrating rural veterans and their families. We start with our golf tournament on Friday, which is so unserious. It's so fun. I think we are doing awards for like best dress this year. One of the prizes is the chainsaw, so it's it's really fun. And that's on Friday. And then Saturday is the big festival day. So we have, starts at 10 a.m. And this is in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania. Last year we had it at the band shell. That was okay, right? I mean, it was really, really nice, but it was small. So this year we more than doubled our size, moved to the fairgrounds, which was quite intimidating to host that, but it is really, really filling out. We're doing a good job there. And so we bring in veteran resources, we bring in state, local, national resources. We bring in craft vendors, veteran-owned businesses. We bring live music, speakers, food trucks. This year we're having a veteran-owned brewery, and we're ending with fireworks. So we got a lot of cool stuff over.
Yeah, pretty big. Are we doing the golf gun again this year?
So, no. Yes and no. We're doing an air cannon.
All right.
This year. So we actually have a company coming up who I have booked his Airbnb. He's coming. They're coming from Atlanta with Andrew Davenport from A New Veteran, who his nonprofit helps people navigate the benefit system, that, making sure their story is told correctly and kind of like walking them through that. Very cool nonprofit. They're coming up from Atlanta to do this. And yeah. So that will be a lot of fun. So last year we had, what was it? An A.
Yeah, we had a AR-15 with a modification on it, so it shot out golf balls. It just had a little can that you put on the front, and you shoved the golf ball down in and fired it. It was a 5.56 round, so it had a decent amount of oomph, but there was actually kids there that could hit the ball farther, which I don't know if that says something about them or about the gun, but I can't remember that kid's name, but he was absolutely fantastic. Luke something or other.
Yeah, those were unreliable. So the air cannons, you really can launch them. And then they set up like bunkers on the course. So like you can even aim for a bunker, and then if you hit it, you get whatever prize is there. So we have gift certificates. We have other golf courses that donated rounds of golf. We have a winery that donated like a tour and wine. We have all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's really, people really went all out for this tournament, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm sad I'm going to be helping to run it and not playing.
I don't think anybody else will be. You're not very good at golf.
Hard to find a team.
Oh, that's okay. I guess like the coolest thing to me though this year is that we have a much heavier involvement from the VA this year. And so that's something that I think, we really try to do, is to make sure there is a pathway for trust to start to be built between rural veterans and the VA. Because the whole reason that we're doing this is because people can't get to the VA as easy as people that live 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away even. But these people live over an hour and a half away, hour 15 minutes away from the VA. And so to go to, a checkup appointment, that's a whole day's work off, basically. So a lot of people aren't even getting enrolled. They're not interested in the VA care. They don't know how to navigate it. They don't understand. There's a lot of unknowns in rural America. And so we are working on bringing the VA to them, get to see their shining faces, get to, be one with the people that weekend. And I think face-to-face interaction really goes a long way in this area.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Being able to look somebody in the eyes and like actually get the handshake out of them, like, it's a lot better than a phone call or a Teams meeting.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even have time to hop online and do, that stuff. Plus, if you just don't know what you don't know. And if it's like already a mental load for you to make that appointment and try and figure out a system that you don't quite understand, like, it is really mentally taxing. So if we can help eliminate some of that burden, and get people there and in front of the VA and their employees and get them enrolled and then, finish their enrollment, like, that's half the battle. So we literally are bringing in generators and hotspots in order to do this. And like, nobody else is doing that. We're doing the work to get it done.
Yeah, that's the whole reason we started this thing. Is it seems like the rural areas are a resource desert. So if we can get the resources to the desert, it makes everything that much better. Remember was the one gentleman last year that was a Vietnam vet, and he was still trying to fight to get on the list for Agent Orange. And
really?
Yeah, and he'd had trouble with the VA. He had trouble getting out there, and so actually having one of the lawyers come in that was able to help him out was great.
Oh, good. Yeah, and the other thing is, like, even I have limited knowledge of the VA, right? Because it's such a robust system. But even my limited knowledge, it still gets confusing with all the different lines of outreach there are, because it is so segmented, and those lines don't talk to one another very well. And so if you are doing this for the first time, it is really, really confusing. So if we can, our goal is to try and get as many lines of outreach there as possible. So, have enrollment, have whole health, have people there from the PACT Act, have National Cemetery, caregiver, women's health. I'm trying to think what else there is. I mean, there's about 12 different lines of outreach that there are. So really being able to see it as a whole picture helps people understand really what there is for them to take advantage of, because it doesn't just, they talk a lot about, the veteran's journey. So it doesn't just stop with 5 years outside of transition. Like, you're a veteran for the rest of your life. So how does the VA support you throughout your life? And so I think a lot of people, I hear a baby crying, so I must have upset one of the kids.
I was going to say, I'm amazed one of them hasn't come running in yet. Again, more of our, struggles with that.
Yeah. It's military life. We don't have my babysitter I usually have. She's getting ready to go see her. Everyone here is military. So we're always all shuffling around, doing our own things with our kids. Very, very little support system, but we're all helping each other hang on by a thread. It's just this week, my thread is gone. And that's okay. I just have a couple more days to get through until you get home. So it's all good. The kids have survived on, what did they eat tonight? Yogurt and ice cream.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't hear the crying anymore, so that's either a good thing or a bad thing. We'll hope for good.
I don't know.
What was it? So other than the VA resources, who else big we got coming?
Well, we have the vet center coming back. So that is affiliated with the VA. That's mental health. We also have the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veteran Affairs coming. So like the VA at the state level. They will be there. And then as far as like not government organizations, we have the equine therapy that's coming back. We have Hunts of Honor. We have Mason-Dixon Warrior Adventures. We have different insurance. We have people to help with, navigate the benefits if you've gotten denied. We have, oh gosh,
It's a long list.
it is a really long list. Listen, we had 35 resources last year. This year we're over 60. And that's not including the lines of outreach that the VA is coming. We're finalizing that next week. So to say that like we grew is an understatement. We really, really grew. And what we try to do is make it so this festival is kind of like so irresistible to kids. So we want it to be so super fun for kids, because you and I know that we don't have a support system, and like where we're at. We can't just like take time out of our weekend to go to a veteran resource fair. And even if we would, I don't think you and I are really I don't think anybody really is like, hey, let's just take time out of our weekend to go to a veteran, unless your back is up against the wall and you really, really need to learn something. But that's not when we want to capture these people. We want to capture their attention before they need anything. And so how do we do that? We make it really, really fun for the family. And we make it a huge, fun, free family experience. And so we have a heavy involvement with like kids games and kids crafts. The National Guard is bringing their rock wall this year. They're bringing a truck. They have everything there. We have other recruiters that are coming too, but then we have our bounce house that's coming back. We have mechanical bull this year. We have an axe throwing trailer. We have face painting. We have kids crafts. We have, all sorts of stuff. And it makes it really, really fun for the kids. Our kids won't stop talking about it. They think like mommy's festival is the coolest thing ever. And they compare our festival to everybody else's. And they're like, Mom, your festival is so much more fun. And I'm really happy about that. I really want kids to have, well, we did not get the VR goggles. No, we did not get those, but that would be really cool. So the kids section is really fun. We have funnel cakes this year. We have the slushies. It's a really good time. I'm really happy that people come, and like it's a source of joy for people, and I do appreciate that, and that's not lost on me either, because in small towns, like growing up there, I grew up there, there's not much happening. You don't have much to do. You don't have a bowling alley to go to. You don't have a roller skating rink. You don't have, there's no recreation really. And so it's really hard to market to rural areas. It's a labor of love, and it takes a lot of time to build trust. And so that's why a lot of people don't even tap into rural America. But that's where it's exciting for me. It's like a challenge that I enjoy. I really enjoy getting to know the people of rural America, their struggles, and how we can serve them best, because it's always like, what you think they might need isn't what they want or need. And so always keeping in mind that people evolve, and this is an opportunity to come and be in touch and making sure that we are meeting their needs and not we are meeting what we think their needs are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is one of the big things, is like actually listening to, what people want.
Yeah, I never want to lose sight of that. I always want to be learning and growing, so that way we can serve them best. And it looks different. Every rural town is a little bit different. So when we go and have these different festivals, it's going to be the same but different. So our North Carolina festival, which we're having November 1st down here, it's going to have a different vibe because it's a different place. It's a different location. So nothing is ever cookie cutter. I don't think people are cookie cutter. I don't think you can stereotype anybody. I know people in rural America that, look at me. I'm rural American. I have pink hair, 2 nose rings, and tattoos. I don't really like fit in like the stereotypical rural America, but I am very rural American.
Yeah, I came from a
There's
small town called Huntingdon, and I didn't know that there was much smaller than that until I met my wife, who only actually has 2 stoplights in the town and more cows than people. And we're proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And last week, one of the neighboring high schools, they just had Bring Your Tractor to School Day. And so I saw a video of, I mean, I don't know, it was a lot, like more than 20 tractors rolling out down the road to go to high school. And I mean, it's just so funny. Like I went to a prom where, guys had camo vests, and I think one year a girl had a camo dress. It's like, where do you even find that at? And it's not like the trendy stuff that Gen Z wears today, like Bass Pro Shop stuff, ironically. Like, it was like they seriously were wearing camo vests and everything. And that's where I come from. And those are the people that I love. And those are the people that get forgotten a lot, because it's just like not the norm. They're just not, there's not a really good picture of them. And I get so frustrated, like whenever I see rural America portrayed on TV or even in podcasts. Like I won't never forget this one podcast I listened to. It was journalists from LA, and they were researching this guy who was from out close to Uniontown, out like near like that Pittsburgh, West Virginia area. So really, a really financially not well off area. And they were like so disgusted that there was a Tractor Supply. And I was like, what? Yeah. That is so offensive to me. Like Tractor Supply, I love Tractor Supply. I think it's a great store, but like it just reminds me that there is this view of rural America that like some people think we're disgusting, we're backwards. Like, I don't know. It's like not even close to the truth, because the rural America I know is just like warm, and I won't say welcoming at first. The rural America I know keeps you at arm's distance a little bit until they get to know you. But if you do need help, they are going to help you right away. I do know that. But they are loving. And once you're in, and they are slow to trust because they've been burned by outsiders before. And that's fine. I think, that's a protection for people. But they're always the first to help out, and they don't ask for anything.
Most veterans are in rural areas now, and a lot of them come from the rural areas. And that's the whole thing. Is like, I had one of my squad leaders whenever I was in Triple Deuce. Like he joined the Army because he didn't want to chuck hay bales for the rest of his life, and like that's everybody was going through those. Like we always had those things like, hey man, so why'd you actually like sign up thing? And some dudes, did the whole like, actually, try to get college. And he was like, I didn't want to chuck, hay bales for the rest of my life. And that's where it was going.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like as many vets as we have in rural America, the problem of getting the resources to them.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the whole nonprofit.
Yeah, I mean, you can advertise to them, but they really need to physically see somebody there. And it's not because they're uneducated. It's just because it's a trust thing. It really is. Because there's been so many times where, outsiders come in and they're trying to buy up your land, or they're trying to, there's all sorts of reasons why, but they really, really need to see that person to make that connection. And that's what I'm really excited about. The other, I love so much about this event, honestly, because it's a way for resources that are there to network with each other. So I heard last year from a bunch of resources that they were so excited to meet all the other resources because they had never been part of something like that. And like, we take advantage of that, right? Because I know you don't go to the resource fairs. You're always watching our kids for me. But when I go to resource fairs here at Fort Bragg, like I like to meet all the other vendors, and I like to see how we can help each other, and how we can be a part of each other's missions. That's part of the game, right? Is to help more veterans by doing more together. And people in rural America, they don't have the opportunity to do that. And so I heard last year resources love that. We had, for last year being the first year, we had like, there's only one resource that's not coming back. They can't make it. So we have almost a 100% return rate from last year, which I'm really proud of. And we added more veteran-owned businesses and more veteran resources. So that's really cool. The other thing is we have speakers. And so last year we had speakers that were more inspirational, but I also heard at the end of it, people want to learn more. Like they really are thirsty for knowledge in these areas because it's hard to get them all together to get this information out. Like you can have a county veteran service officer, but if you're not going to him, he can't educate you. So having them all together and being able to educate them. So we're bringing in, like one of the resources is sending one of their advisors who is from Harvard on veteran entrepreneurship, like very cool. We just got a TEDx speaker who's our MC, another veteran-owned franchise business. He's an MC, but we have a lot of speakers coming as far as veteran employment, veteran entrepreneurship. What else do we have? Real estate. Still trying to find somebody to speak about homesteading. So we have ways to get information to people. And I'm really excited about that. But the other thing that we've added this year too is adding a true community block section where community organizations can set up and people can see like, okay, this is what makes our community go around. So we have the volunteer fire companies, we have, Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, things like that. So people can see, and the fire companies are bringing fire trucks, we're trying to get Smokey the Bear in and state police to do like kind of a touch a truck event too. So make it really engaging for the kids in that way, but then also parents can see what there is to get involved in and volunteer in, because that is what is making your town special. And the Historical Society is bringing up like some displays from the Civil War. We have World War II memorabilia or World War I memorabilia that's coming up, and a local historian is going to talk about the local history this year too. So really connecting people to their roots there, ensuring that they feel proud of where they are and want to do better because of that. Like, I think it's just such an inspiring day. So it's June 7th in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania at the Fulton County Fairgrounds. And our website is ohruralsalute.org/event. So check us out there. And if you're in the area, definitely come out, say hi. Gosh, it's going to be a really, really fun day. I'm excited.
Me too. And I'm excited to get home.
I know. I hope this rain holds off, though. It's pouring like cats and dogs here, and I was looking on the map today. There's a bunch of flooding, so I hope you don't have more flooding to go around.
Yeah. I still haven't fixed the roads in Kentucky for me to get there. So.
Yeah. When he first went to school, first of all, our whole family was so sick. I had just got out of the urgent care with our youngest, and he literally left that day. And then there was like massive flooding in Kentucky. So it's always something with military families. It really is. But I'm glad that you're going to be home and we can start planning this event. And I appreciate you.
Excellent. And you're doing absolutely fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. G Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Where voices, Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
Are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
I don't see myself.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Harris. I'm the Executive Director of Tomorrow Stars Today, and I am with my coach, Bishop Rene Soule. Today, we're going to cover AI. AI is right now. Bishop, do you have any opening statements you want to say before I switch to the presentation?
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be back and helping our community understand where the market is moving in terms of technology and especially AI. Just recently, a week or so ago, the Trump administration came out with an executive order on pushing AI in schools. So it's gaining a lot of attention.
Yes, sir. That's something that I need to incorporate within my nonprofit, dealing with the children and then the language models and the basics of it. I have to master it before I can, teach it. And then while you're teaching it, you learn even more about it, because the children will force you to break it down to the lowest level. And when you break it down to the lowest level, it makes you think of it in another way. So, yeah.
It is that. And I run the Mixon-Clayton Foundation in Hammond, Louisiana. We are a STEAM program, and we are committed to helping our youth move into that space.
Yes, sir. I am about to switch it now.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's go.
And so while you're switching, if we want to help people think about AI, I'm a visual person, and thanks for putting that up. And so one of the simplest uses of AI, and many of us use it, is Siri. If you have an Apple phone, you go, "Hey Siri." Well, that's AI.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So so you're having a machine perform a human function. It does a search for you based on the command you give it. So
Yeah, it's
that's
the most.
That's a really everyday use of AI.
Yeah, it's the most basic example that sometimes we have things that we do or we're using, but we don't fully understand. Like I always use the most basic. The vacuum is technology ahead of the broom, and we
Right.
take it for granted until your vacuum goes out, and now you have to use a broom. So
Right. So, and the thing about it, Ryan, and again, AI is not new. Okay. AI has been out for some time. And I say some time, I mean decades. It started in the mid 50s when John McCarthy had a summer research program at Dartmouth, and he was I guess the father of the term AI, and then it really took on a real commercial component in the 20th century, and Stanford University kind of led that charge, and now it's on steroids. So as you see on screen, what is AI? And Brian, if you want to just take a few words on that chart and share with our audience.
yes, sir. So it says, what is AI? Machine learning. Computers learn from data patterns. Adaptive system, programs that improve with experience. Neural networks, digital systems mimicking brain functions.
So that's a lot of technical stuff. Okay. And in basic terminology, it's computers performing tasks typically human intelligence, learning, problem solving, decision making. Those are some real basic applications of AI.
You were breaking up for a second when you were saying is basically computers mimicking human behavior. Can you repeat that for the group?
Yeah, so it's computer systems that perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence, but now through the AI function, AI can assist with learning, it can assist with problem solving, decision making. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I signed up for an AI training course, and I got an AI phone call. It was the first time of that, and the person and the voice was a human voice, but it was machine generated, confirming that I was going to be in attendance and the time and everything. So AI is just taking off.
Yeah, it's moving at a pace that I want to say almost Terminator pace, but I doubt we get Skynet anytime soon. And what you're saying, I find it hilarious. Like if you were to, I read a lot, and the funniest thing that I do sometimes to make myself laugh, I would have it read it in like your random celebrity voice, and it's just the funniest thing. But it makes me pay attention more. Like I did one with her name was Sharon. Her husband was a rock and roll star, and they had a TV show, but then she ended up going on like The View or something like that, one of the talk shows with the ladies. And I just found her voice so hilarious, so I did the talk with her, and it read the entire thing, and it was just hilarious to me. I just moved to the next slide.
Okay, so this is the market, and there are, especially in the business sector, and that's in the private and the nonprofit sector, folks are using this tool, and they're using this tool to be more productive. They're using this tool to help in decision making. they're using this tool for analysis. In the nonprofit world, we use it to write grants, to research for data, get the right language. When it used to take us, to write a really, really competitive grant, it could take us anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. You can do it in 2 to 3 days using AI.
Yeah,
And
right
it's
now.
fundable. And it's legal. Another point, it's legal. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I've been using it to write my email.
Well, and that's what's very simple. And I have it for using emails because again, presentation is everything in business, whether you're for profit or nonprofit, and you want the sentence structure and the verb and tense and everything, correct. And AI helps you with those things.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So it helps you become more astute at your writing. So it forces you to critique your own writing style. And AI is like a coach in the background. Hold up, time out. I think you might want to look at saying it this way.
Yes, and another thing that a lot of people they fail to understand with these machines. Granted, AI is going to take some jobs, but it's going to create jobs because it's going to take humans to fix it. For instance, if someone has a bias towards anything and they program something the wrong way, it's going to have to take a human to go in there and fix it. Just like with McDonald's, with these kiosks and all of that, there's no robots going to fix kiosks. It's humans going to fix the kiosk whenever they go down. Granted, it might be 1 or 2 people per X amount of mile in a range of X amount of McDonald's. However, it's still humans. On here, it says 300 billion app as a service. So app as a service is a newer term. They had software as a service. They had a platform as a service. And now I'm seeing app as a service, which means within your the language model that the AI is using, that's the app as a service. So let's say, for instance, a school teacher was trying to reach kids at a certain level, then you can create your AI app to interact with the children. Then that way that they'll get it. It's one service. I can't think of the name of it. They were saying like it was using math and it was telling the kid to break glass within the simulator and then count the pieces of the glass. So it's using creative ways of teaching overall. That's phenomenal.
It really is, and yes, AI, and again, it streamlines processes that were done by human individuals, but at the same time, it opens up, as you said, new opportunities for individuals. And this is where the training comes in, and this is where we come in to help folks. And it's just not youth and young adults, it's also folks who are in the mainstream of the workforce, because it is an everyday business.
Yes. And it's
And
constantly learning.
those that have that acumen and skill are going to be more marketable, and they're going to find themselves in demand.
Yes, and if you can start them off younger, the better.
Yes, absolutely. So now is the time, because, like you said, it is like the Terminator. It is on steroids. It's gone. Okay, it really has. And if you're not picking up this skill set, you're going to be in a deficit in the marketplace. And I don't care what job you take. I don't care, what company you work for. That is going to be a plus in the hiring decision.
Yes, we have to see it more as a tool instead of a replacing human. It's a tool. You can use examples of electricians and even working in tech. I can't tell you how many times something happens in tech where I don't know exactly what's going on. So I have to go back, refer to the manual of, let's say, Cisco's routers. versus if Cisco created their own AI, which they 9 times out of 10 they already do have it, but I'm not aware of it. They create their own AI where it says, okay, what type of model, make model, okay, what problem are you having? Now you enter all of that information into the chat log, and then it just tells you, okay, you have a dimension collision on domain collision here. Check this route, change this IP, do this, do that. It'll make your job easier than that. And in some cases, the tool, it would definitely make your job easier.
And you just brought up another example of AI, and we all use it, the chat feature, because it's hard to get in touch with a human being, right?
Yeah.
So they say, if you want immediate service, click on this chat box, and then you type in, and then guess what? You get the response. And most of the time, it is accurate. I was signing up for a new program with this electrical engineering association, and I was having a challenge, getting my application through. So I went to the chat box, and they walked me right through on what I needed to do to fix it. That's AI.
They're helpful. So this one is the global market need other applications. CityNet, Digital Control Center.
Yes, go ahead, Brad.
Digital Control Center for housing, data management, and urban planning tools.
So that's that's your smart grid, okay? And today's folks that are in that housing development, architect, infrastructure, all that comes together in planning. And that's where the productivity part of AI comes in. That can really help, it can't supersede the human reasoning to a certain degree, because you're still going to need, that human touch, but it can also help provide a lot of critical data and analyze that critical data and present that data to the person who's going to make the final decision on what we're going to build, how we're going to build, where we're going to build.
Ironically enough, the TED Talk that I recently attended, there was a gentleman, well, according to him, it was the simplest AI model where it was heavy traffic from drones to robots to delivery trucks, but it was organized. It was organized
Right.
on an unbelievable scale. And that's where your human beings come in, because who's going to protect that?
Right.
You have to have somebody to protect it. And sometimes we as human beings, we tend to forget that we are dangerous. So whatever someone creates, someone is already trying to destroy it. And then that's why your cybersecurity is picking up so big, and your iOS Internet of Things. It's ridiculous. Like with the smart refrigerators, people were hacking smart refrigerators. And outside of when you go to the grocery store and you forget your list, I get the function of a smart refrigerator, but outside of that, I don't too much care. I would never have one. But it is nice when you go to the grocery store, you forget your list, you can just go onto an app, look inside your refrigerator, like, oh, okay, I don't need a gallon of milk. I need something for the potatoes instead. So that's extremely helpful. The next one, it says STEM Connect, platform for students engagement, mentor matching, and digital learning resources.
And that's where, organizations like yours, Ryan, like mine, we come in to help get our middle school and high school students engaged in this arena. But they must know it and understand it in order to be at the top of the hiring chart.
Yes, it'll make them job ready. I hope and pray that we can go back to the older model where at 16 you graduate well, that's not the older model, but let's just, at 16, you graduate high school and then you go into the workforce, or you have something where your work study actually begins, because waiting for them to go through a 4-year college, they're behind the curve. The minute you do all of that, you're putting them behind the curve, not even going to get on a debt situation unless you join the military. But outside of that, they're behind the curve when it comes to AI programming, when it comes to machine learning, a machinist, things like that. This is why your trades were so important. And this is going to help future-wise with trades when it comes to the youth. So they can just start as small with the Legos. Then they go from Legos. And like you were saying on the previous podcast, financial literacy is monopoly. Then they go from the financial literacy to other things. Like we had one of our students, young Mr. Coleman, we had the flight simulator. He naturally took to it. He did everything perfectly like a regular pilot. Mika Tang, she's our instructor. She broke it down to him, and he's the only one that literally went through everything the way that a pilot should for a flight simulator. And this kid is only 12 years old.
And that is, and the thing that's really, not unique about that is that the younger they are, the easier it is for them to pick this up, because their mind is so open, and they haven't really been, sabotaged into like, this is detrimental, this is not good. They want to explore, they want to experiment.
Yes. So
this. And so we're not going to say, yes. And so we're not going to say every child is going to be a AI tech person, but you do need to have a working knowledge of this.
Yes, how to use the tool. So it says why it matters. Efficiency. AI streamlines operation, improving productivity. Readiness. AI creates future-proof systems, ensuring long-term success. Opportunity. AI creates new growth paths, unlocking potential. Impact. AI offers measurable community benefits, improving lives.
And I mean, all of those things are critical for us as a society to live a quality life. We need real-time data, but we need the right real-time data. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
AI can help with
person. Agreed.
AI can help with that in so many ways. And when you're thinking of, again, especially in the commercial applications of, decision making and profit and loss and business systems and models, these companies are able to crunch out, scenarios. If we go this path, okay, what are the strengths and what are the challenges? But if we go a different path, and now that decision maker has that data in front of them where they can say, okay, here's where we're going to move. And this is the reason why we're going to move here.
Yes. This one is unlock your data's potential. Collect. The first step to unlock potential, gather valuable insight. Next step, process. Transform raw data into usable formats. Analyze. Uncover key patterns and actionable information. Implement. Apply insights to drive meaningful change and achieve goals.
And that's a really simple pathway of using AI in whatever application that it might be applicable to you and your business or just learning. But there is some, and how I want to say, because a while ago it hasn't happened as much. There was some ethical situations with AI completing thesis and things of that nature, okay? And you can use it for research, but it can't, supersede the requirement for you to demonstrate your educational ability and acumen for whatever area that you are engaged in.
Come on now, coach. You know the saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
No, it ain't cheating. It ain't. Use all the tools, okay? Use every tool out here, but you still have to follow legal and ethical rules. It's like plagiarism, and you can't tell people you got a master's and you don't. Okay, you can't do that. I mean, so there's integrity. And like you said, unfortunately, if you're not cheating, you're not in the set. I like that. But that's why we need to help coach our young people and adults, on the proper use of it, because it is a tool like any other tool. It can be used for good, and it can be used for not, and it can be used for bad. So that's where we come in as coaches and mentors and trainers.
That concludes the slides for the AI covering it. And of course I agree with you. This is where we come in and where we need to teach. We need to teach the right things, the right ethical ways of doing it. But then you have to teach, like I was, like I told a pastor, God created the human body. It was perfect. Human beings, we messed it up. So whatever someone makes, someone can break, and you have to figure out how to fix it and how to protect it. Just like, protecting your home. The first line of defense is the gate.
Right.
So then the next is the front porch, and if I use those in IT terms, that's a man trap. The front porch would be your demilitarized zone. So it's a lot. But thank you all for having us. Once again, I'm Ryan Harris, Executive Director, Tomorrow Stars Today, and this is
Rene Soule with the Mixon-Clayton Foundation in Hammond, Louisiana. It is our goal to help you help your child, your young adult, and even yourself become more employable in this technology-driven world.
Thank you to America's Heroes Groups for having us, and to everyone else that's watching. I hope you all enjoyed your lovely days, because out here in Chicago, it's actually 75 degrees, which I can't believe. So I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. And we won't be back on, Ryan, before Veterans Day. So thank you to all of our veterans and you who serve to protect America and our democracy. We owe you an invaluable debt. Thank you.
Thank you for your support, and thank you to the rest of the fellow veterans, those that preceded me, my grandfather, my uncle. It's a long list. Thank you for everyone previously in the the broadcast. Now we can bounce.
G Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618. Where voices.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
G Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to America's Heroes Group live stream digital media show. I am your host for the next half hour and media partner. I'm here to talk about something that happened last month. I apologize. I haven't been on the air for a little bit. I have been out of the country for my own vacation and had a great time, and I am excited to be back with everybody here. So last month, Defense Secretary Pete.D. announced on X, and I'll read from his post. This morning, I proudly ended, in all caps, the Women, Peace, and Security WPS program inside the Department of Defense. WPS is yet another woke, divisive social justice Biden initiative that overburdens our commanders and troops, distracting from our core task, warfighting. WPS is a United Nations program pushed by feminists and left-wing activists. Politicians fawn over it. Troops hate it. DoD will hereby executive the minimum of the WPS required by statute and fight to end the program for our next budget. Good riddance, WPS. So let's talk about the program. So it got its start originally for the U.S. when then House Representative, now Homeland Security Secretary Christine Noem, introduced the House version of the 2017 Women, Peace, and Security Act with the Democratic Representative Jan Shanakowski. I apologize if I do mispronounce that name, of Illinois. It was also introduced by then Senator, now Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who co-sponsored the bill in the Senate. This bill was signed into law by President Donald Trump during his first term and often celebrated by him many times. Even in 2019, Ivanka Trump celebrated that WPS program was starting a new partnership to help train female police cadets in Colombia. So let's look this up. It's Senate Bill 1141. That's the one that was signed into law. And it's also Public Law 115-68. It's only 6 pages, so anyone can really read it with ease, especially if you skip down to just the important parts of it that really interests you. But let's go over it. Its purpose is to ensure that the United States promotes the meaningful participation of women in mediation and negotiation processes, seeking to prevent, mitigate, or resolve violent conflict. This act specifically states that the Defense Secretary shall, in the following areas, training and conflict prevention, peace processes, mitigation, resolution, and security initiatives that specifically gender considerations and meaningful participation by women, including training regarding international human rights law and international humanitarian law as relevant, and protecting civilians from violence, exploitation, and trafficking in persons. It also, the Secretary of Defense is supposed to effective strategies and best practices for ensuring meaningful participation by women. So last month, Secretary Rubio had stated that it was the first law passed by any country in the world focused on protecting women and promoting their participation in society, which is true. It was the first one. It actually got its start, at least worldwide. And according to the AP News, the legislation stemmed from a resolution unanimously endorsed by the UN Security Council, the most powerful UN body, in October 2000, aimed at including women in peace-building efforts because women and girls have historically borne the brunt of global conflict. A spokesperson from the UN, Stephanie Dujarric, I'll also apologize again if I mispronounce that. It's no secret that women remain largely in preparing of formal peace processes and decision-making, which is not good for the cause of peace. One of the real-life impacts of the Women, Peace, and Security program has been the increasing number of women peacekeepers who serve in the UN missions, which has had a very clear, measurable, and positive impact on the protection of civilians in conflict zones. Later on in the day, on April 29th, when Pete Hegseth had posted his original statement on X, he had reshared the original post that I read earlier and stated, the woke and weak Biden administration distorted and weaponized the straightforward and security-focused WPS initiative launched in 2017. So yes, we are ending the woke, decisive, social justice Biden WPS initiative. Biden ruined everything, including women, peace, and security. And Secretary Hegseth's X statement. I personally have yet to find anything to support these claims. There doesn't seem to be anything that has been posted to show that. Currently, WPS is still active in the State Department online. I haven't yet been able to find it on the DoD websites. I found a few other things, memorandums, things like that. Not actual, as easy to find as the State Department has. And the State Department is the only other department that's required to do anything involving the WPS program. Only 2 departments were stated to have these initiatives implemented for the programs within their departments. But 2 months before Secretary Hegseth's announcement, the Center for Strategic International Studies released an analysis titled Why the Women, Peace, and Security Act Strengthens U.S. Defense Strategy. This was written by Kathleen McGinnis. The author stated that within the DoD, officials have long lamented the framework's title, as it is often confused with efforts to increase women in the U.S. military. Further, the title implies that it is neither relevant for military operations nor the military cooperation with allies and partners. Now, this is where Secretary Pete Hegseth may have made his decision, is because of the title, because of what it sounds like, which has been happening quite a bit, and the media has reported it on different things that has been implemented to be removed because they have been labeled as DEI. Many things such as photographs of Enola Gay, which is the name of the plane that dropped one of the atomic bombs in Japan, that was named after the pilot's mother. It was labeled as DEI and then subject to remove. Though it had nothing to do with LGBTQ community, Gay was just the last name of the person that it was named after. And this happened to many other things, studies and reports, like for health studies with NIH. They basically have stated that you can't have any of these reports or studies when it focuses on men or women, people of color, different things that goes under the DEI objectives that they have labeled. So those types of studies have been removed, canceled, what have you. And this is probably one of the similar things, the reasons why it has been selected and then ended. Although it does seem like that they will try to keep to the statute for now until the next couple of months to see if Congress will actually implement something to remove that statute. It will have to take an amendment. It will likely be added to the very giant budget bill that needs to be approved before October 1st. But that is just a guesstimation, because it could be in a many different way. It could be coming out in its own bill, but we'll have to wait and see on how that would happen. And there's no word as of yet if that will also be implemented for the State Department as well. Now, to continue with this author's report and analysis, it's very interesting. So let's dig in more about WPS, because a lot of people have heard, this has got canceled. It's DEI, but what is it really? Is what is so important nowadays is to really find out what's its importance, what it does for us, and what it does for other people. So the author continues, in reality, applying the principles codified within the WPS Act to DoD operations, activities, and investments not only affords the Joint Force tactical advantages, but also creates new pathways to counter authoritarian rivals such as China, Russia, and Iran, including through bolstering deterrent postures. Now, what does this sound like? Now, before this act was even signed into law, the DoD was actually carrying out some of these things. If people remember back in Afghanistan, when there were actually female engagement teams, and I'm trying to remember the actual abbreviations for it, because that's just been the fun. There it is, FETs, female engagement teams. And that is basically to facilitate engagement with local populations, particularly women, girls, in conflict areas, zones, and areas where cultural norms restrict interactions between men and women. So there were many military women that was deployed into combat zones and actually attached to combat units to facilitate and help out operations and missions within the area, especially when it comes to interacting with the female population of the local areas where the mission needs to be carried out. So the DoD was actually following through with this before it was actually enacted into law, has been doing it for a while. I was familiar with these engagement teams because I was actually asked to go myself, but I politely said no, thank you. I have already done many deployments by then, but I have heard really great and many things to do those things, to actually carry out those tasks. And let's see, they were actually typically deployed in teams of 2 or 3, attached to battalion, company, and platoon levels. And these members received specialized training in cultural sensitivity, communication, and interaction techniques, often drawing from resources developed by the Marine Corps and Army Special Operations Command. Now, these FET teams, these FETs actually were one of the reasons that bolstered the idea of allowing women into combat, which we have heard many opposition to, much from, especially from Secretary Pete Hegseth while he was a Fox anchor. So the original, the origin of this WPS program might also be something that he has a personal thing against, which is fine. That's okay. That's his prerogative, and he was selected. And if that was his goal, that's his goal. I'm just kind of digging out some more, so a little bit more history for you so that we can understand what's going on. Now, the Center for Strategies and Center for Strategic and International Studies has done some research and identified several ways that WPS can help the DoD build strategic advantage relative to authoritarian adversaries. These include WPS as a flanking maneuver. Now, it sounds a little bit more warlike than it actually is, and it's basically to outflank some Chinese and Russian activities in the Eurasian and Indo-Pacific theaters, if not globally. Well, majority of Russia and China operations do focus more on utilizing men in the combat zone. And when the opposition arises, they tend to also ignore the women. It's been happening in Ukraine right now that tens of thousands of women have been joining the resistance and fighting against Russia. And WPS programs within the UN has been actually utilizing and working with their lines of efforts to help these women in the resistance against Russia within their own country. And that can really help out when it comes to the end goal for a war. Women are also major targets when it comes to wartime. They are often ignored, but then they are also usually the ones that might be the highest casualties. They are usually the highest injured when it comes to sexual assault in the combat zones. Girls are usually included in that. That's usually a very highly targeted and unfortunate byproduct for war and conflicts in Africa. If any remember many of the conflicts that happened there, that's one of the things that does come up a lot. So that is something that WPS does focus on. In the last decade and a half, our DoD and the Army has actually been focusing a lot in Africa. There has been some missions, not full-on conflicts like we see in Iraq and Afghanistan, but there has been some presence there. And that has been part of the focus that's been going on. And WPS has been involved when it comes to that. So let's see. Another one is WPS as a mechanism for crisis assurance and communication on other non-WPS national security matters. Among democratic states, WPS creates positive spaces that are often viewed as not politically controversial. Accordingly, the DoD ought to consider how WPS spaces might create vectors for communicating other defense messages to key allies and partners in theater. Basically opening up lines of communication that doesn't seem as politically controversial. And so it might be more approachable for mediation and negotiations in that arena. Something that does tend to happen. One study that has actually nothing to do with conflict and war, but there's actually been studies done in our own prison systems where they found that women as correctional officers of male prisons are more likely to resolve conflicts between prisoners, between the inmates, and inmates are less likely to show aggression and violence when there is a female correctional officer present. Yes, female correctional officers still might receive assault, abuse from the inmates. That does happen. But the aggression of the inmates overall actually does drop when there is the presence of female inmates. When you take that aside and look at it into the arena of actual conflict and war, that might help out a ton of having a female presence there to lower the temperature of conflicts. And that could actually help out a lot when it comes to negotiation and coming to some sort of conflict resolution. Now, there's another part of it. WPS, a strategic offset vis-a-vis Russia's numerical superiority in war-fighting context. Let me read this out for you a little bit. European states are likely to face significant challenges conducting large-scale combat missions, particularly in such areas as heavy maneuver forces, naval combatants, and support capabilities such as logistics and fire support. Much like during the Cold War, Russia has a vast supply of manpower that it's willing to expend on the front lines in Ukraine and elsewhere, which we have seen. I mean, they have used actual prisoners from their gulags and sent them over to Ukraine. During the Cold War, that numerical advantage was offset by the US and NATO nuclear weapons. As it is unlikely that the United States will want to utilize nuclear weapons in a contemporary contingency unless absolutely necessary, U.S. allies and partners in the U.S. European Command Area of Responsibility, AO, must be able to call upon their entire populations to resist and deter Russian aggression. In other words, WPS provides opportunities to build allied and partner forces in key theaters, better positioning the joint force for crisis response in key theaters. Sounds really great when you actually break it down like that. But we'll see how this works out. It has been a couple of weeks since then, and we haven't seen that much movement on that. But I will say that PH.D has been quite busy lately, and that is also included with the military transgender ban because the Supreme Court has ruled that the injunction put in place by the original court and the appeals court that actually stopped the transgender ban and kicking out many of the transgender members. The Supreme Court said that the military can continue that. So he has been working on discharging those that are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, giving them the voluntary discharges right now until I believe June 6th or 7th. And then after that, he will probably be making in the steps for mandatory discharges, which might have not so favorable discharges. There's a lot to work on with that, and that might be taking a majority of his attention right now, while this might not be taking that much attention right now because many people have not been talking about it since his original tweets last month. And I say let's try to keep that conversation going so we can see what may be coming out and what they may be doing. Now, one thing I do want to end on and actually give a little bit more information on is the allegation that the Biden administration has taken the WPS program and warped it into their own DEI initiatives. And so let me add a little bit of context here. So when it was implemented, the DoD and State Department had 1 year to enact it. They also had to brief Congress on this. And they've actually been doing near annual briefings to Congress on this program. And there have also been congressional reports. And then in 2023, I believe, they started doing another analysis and another report to go through the implementation plan, beef it up, work on it, and then the memorandum for that actually came out in 2024. But I've seen a lot of references to 2023, so I'm including that number in there just for reference sake for anyone that's interested. The DoD secretary then, and that was, of course, Austin, he actually released a 16-page paper memorandum about the DoD Women, Peace, and Security Implementation Plan, dated December 30th, 2024. And it's basically it starts with the Department of Defense is committed to advancing women's participation in peace and security processes and integrating gender analysis in U.S. foreign policy and national security decision-making, consistent with Women, Peace, and Security WPS Act of 2017. These efforts recognize that participation of women in all aspects of conflict prevention, resolution, management, and conflict relief is a national security tool by enhancing integrated deterrence and campaigning, deepening our alliances and partnerships, and making us a stronger, more ready, and more resilient fighting force. The implementation plan involves how the department conceptualizes and executes WPS. So they did do some editing to the implementation plan. Now, I haven't seen very much that shows that there was a huge change from the original act, but I will say that there was literally a few sentences that actually states that the DoD must do this within the act. And then out comes a 16-page document that is very detailed with objectives. And then there are also priorities, outcomes. There's also objectives and tasks in very DoD military-like formats that I recognize very well, because these are usually added to many unit missions and things that people that have worked in operations and training, they recognize because of these objectives and tasks that are put out there. But I do encourage you all to look that one up. It is a really interesting read for those people that are interested in this. A few things that is added in here that could be labeled as DEI and then used to vilify what the Biden administration has done. One of the tasks, subtasks, and objectives is task 1.1.5, promote gender equality as a core component of human rights through training and education of the total force on the law of armed conflict and civilian harm mitigation response. As someone that has been within a combat zone and known as a woman of what happens within a combat zone, women are often targeted and also used as targets as well, and hostages and tools for many different things. So understanding what can happen in a combat zone based on a person's gender, whether they are a armed combatant, a civilian, a bystander, it's really good to understand what's going on when it comes to theater of operations when you're planning and operating within the AO, area of operations. And so those type of things is really important to know and also have many people understand as they experience and see it. So that way they can mitigate it, stop it, end it, and probably correct whatever is going on wrong and report it. Because if it has to do with human rights and different things that has to go with that, the UN is often included, especially if it is done by a specific official enemy command or either party that's going on within the war zone. So I will have to end there for everybody. And I would like to thank you all for listening and taking the time to hear me out and sharing this little bit and coming to understand what's really going on within our DoD. Thank you for everybody. Stephanie Collada, media partner here and host of this lovely half hour. You guys have a really great night. Bye.
Where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Where voices, information, and resources market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618. Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America.
I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
PH.D connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
All right, I'll start again. I'd like to thank America's Heroes Group for allowing me to present this evening. My name is Sadiq Colquitt. I am the founder and executive director of the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition, and I am with you one Wednesday out of the month, and it is an extreme pleasure to be here. So this evening, I'd just like to have a conversation with you around health from a couple of angles. And though some of you may know who I am, I'd like to tell a little bit of my story just to start out. So for those of you that don't know, or we haven't had the opportunity to become acquainted, I'm born and raised in Chicago, and I pretty much live what I would consider a normal life on the South Side, born and raised on the South Side of Chicago, and educated in CPS and then also in the private school system. Left home to go to college, University of Illinois in Champaign. Did some work in Champaign, and then in my late 20s, returned to Chicago. And after returning to Chicago to work in corporate America, I went to the doctor. And so, it's just making sure I didn't live into that cycle of Black men don't go to the doctor. They never get, their checkups. And so I wanted to make sure that I was being a good, steward of my own health. So I went to the doctor, and I was about 29 years old. And the doctor said to me, Mr. Colquitt, you have high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and what I'm going to do is prescribe, and literally got the board out, started writing, and said, I'm going to prescribe this medication for you, and you are going to have to take it for the rest of your life. And at 29, the rest of my life sounded like an awfully long time. So I left the doctor's office. I took the prescription in hand, but I did not go get it filled. I left the doctor's office with the idea that I could possibly handle this without going on medication. And I'm actually thankful to the doctor who said it that way, because it really, when it jarred me when she said the rest of my life. So that being said, I had a couple of friends and acquaintances that were like, well, we could take you to a restaurant. We could look into changing your diet. And so all of these things were stepping stones to me just simply working on my blood pressure. So I visited a vegan or vegetarian restaurant. Prior to this, I had no concept. Both of my parents were from the South. My dad was born and raised in Alabama. My mom born and raised in Tennessee. And most of what we ate was considered cultural African American soul food. And my mom was a really good cook. My dad was also a cook. He was also a cook in the Army. And so, holidays, weekdays, regular days, it did not matter. There was some type of, cultural soul food flowing through the house. And so I had no thoughts on vegetarianism. I had no idea, really had never heard the word vegan before, let alone know what it was. So went to the restaurant. That started me reading. And from there, I decided to at least try. And so the more I got into the plant-based diet, the more my health began to change. And so I went back to the doctor for a checkup. They give you a 90, 120-day window, 3 to 4 months you have to return. And I started slowly moving animal products out of my diet. I didn't move everything out at once, slowly. And I went back to the doctor, and my blood pressure returned to the level it was when I was 18. And, this really struck me because it wasn't, at that point, I wasn't a very ultra healthy. I wasn't, sipping wheatgrass, and I wasn't, just eating carrot sticks, but I had moved a significant amount of animal-based foods out of my diet and replaced them with plant-based foods. And this was about 25 years ago. So I tell this story because I think the origin is key, and some of the base philosophies that we use at the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition come from my origin, my discovery, and then how the collaboration worked with those around me, or the lack of collaboration with those around me, and just how important shifting the percentage of plants to animals on your plate can really make a major difference in your life. So one of the quotes that I love, and I talk about often when I'm working with groups, is by Dr. Michael Greger. And Dr. Greger says, most doctor visits are for lifestyle-based diseases. And so we talk about lifestyle-based diseases. I want to be clear. We're talking about diabetes. We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about some forms of cancer. And we're also talking about Alzheimer's and some forms of dementia. These are lifestyle-based diseases, which means in the natural world, they don't occur. Okay. So Dr. Greger says most doctor visits are for lifestyle-based diseases, which means they are preventable diseases. As physicians, right? And I love when doctors are talking because it's very important to hear a voice from inside the room. As physicians, my colleagues and I are trained not to treat the root cause, but rather the consequences by giving a lifetime's worth of medications to treat risk factors like high blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. This approach has been compared to mopping up the floor around an overflowing sink instead of simply turning off the faucet. Mopping up the floor around an overflowing sink instead of simply turning off the faucet. So the conversations that I like to have with clients, people that come to our workshops and our seminars, the nutrition classes I teach, when I get an opportunity, I like to have conversations centered around turning off the sink. Turning off the sink instead of mopping up the water. And that's what medications are. That's what 90% of our healthcare industry is based on, mopping up the water. There are very few conversations about how to turn off the sink. And the average American consumes almost 2 2,000 pounds of food a year. So let's stop and think about that for a moment. The average person, the average American, consumes either a little less or a little more than 2,000 pounds of food every year. We are eating 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a day, every day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks out of the month, and 12 months out of the year. And then there are times designed for us to overconsume, and we call those holidays, special days, special occasions, family get-togethers, and they pervade the culture, of overeating, self-indulgence, and the list just goes on and on and on. But many of the things that we see as they just come with the terrain or they just come with the territory are really lifestyle diseases, and they center right on your plate. Imagine 2,000 pounds of something going through your body. And the average person is really between 150 and maybe 230, 240 pounds. The average. You have some that are above and you have some that are below. But between that 150 and that 240, that's a lot to put through your system. Imagine the effect that has on your health. Just think about that a moment. Imagine the effect that has on your health, and imagine how your cellular structure and your organs have to make room, adjust, and allot for everything that you decide to put through here. No matter whether they're chemicals, they're dyes, they're ultra-processed foods, whether they are, red meats, white meats, whether it's fish, no matter what it is, apples, oranges, bananas, no matter what it is, your body has to bear the load of what you make a decision to put in your mouth. And so how do we turn off the faucet, right? How do we make a clear-cut change in our health? Because I'm in a health conversation really 7 days out of the week. I'm either talking to a potential client, I'm talking to a client, I'm talking to a group, I'm teaching a class. And so how do we make these changes, right? And so there's so much misinformation. There's so many misunderstandings around this 4-letter word that we call food. There are so many assumptions, cultural assumptions, misinformation, a health industry that is undergirded by capitalism, right? Which just means that there are people out there and there are products on the market which are there to just garner your money and the bottom line, and they have nothing to do with your overall health. The vast majority of Americans, more than half of America, is ill and is on one or more medications a day. And that's the starting point, because that's half the country. And as the age skews and grows, meaning the older you get, the percentage goes higher. And so from 45 to 55, the percentage gets higher. From 55 to 65, the percentage gets higher. From 65 to 75. And now we know that people are experiencing major illness at younger and younger ages because of, again, this 4-letter word called food. And the fact that we are a culture that is used to mopping up around the sink, right? We're not really interested in turning off the faucet. We're not interested in how to not have diabetes type 2. We're not really interested in that. And I use diabetes type 2 as an example. I work with people who are diabetic all the time. The first thing we do, and I've done on this show, is explain where diabetes type 2 originates. And one of the surprising things is it is not a disease of sugar. Sugar does not cause diabetes. And most of the population does not know that. And so even the treatments for diabetes type 2, right, where you have to inject more insulin so it can pull more sugar out of the bloodstream, because the more sugar in the bloodstream, the more ill you become. Also, because sugar at high levels in the bloodstream begin to wreak havoc and endanger the endothelial lining that is in the arteries. It really is a bad deal, right? And so now we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about heart disease, and a lot of these things overlap. And so diabetes not being a disease of sugar, right? Meaning sugar is an effect of the diabetic cause. And I wanted to slow down tonight because there are a lot of people out there who are suffering from prediabetes, diabetes, and again, type 2. There are other types. Type 1, you have gestational diabetes. And today I read an article where they're releasing a new type called type 5, but that'll be for a conversation later on. But the most prevalent type of diabetes is diabetes type 2. So listen up. If you're struggling with diabetes type 2, here is the cause. The cause of diabetes type 2 is saturated fat and oils that clog your cells. The cells cannot metabolize the sugar that the insulin brings to the cell for energy. And then the sugar, because it cannot enter the cell and be metabolized, is discarded into the bloodstream. And when this happens, the cell is said to be insulin resistant, and the blood accumulating in your arteries is elevating your blood sugar levels. Okay. So let me slow down. Let me go through that one more time, and then we'll talk about the best way to reduce your blood sugar levels and your A1C score, and then eventually reduce your diabetic meds, right? And then possibly enter the zone where you don't have to take them. And that varies from individual to individual, and it varies based on how willing you are to work at it. So here it is again. You have a healthy cell, right? This healthy cell is clear in the middle. And this is what should happen. So that healthy cell, okay, is approached by insulin. Insulin is a hormone. And on the insulin, just like, you could say it's like the insulin school bus. It's got little sugar molecules because your body turns your food energy into sugars. And so the cell, right, the insulin approaches the cell. It's kind of like you see a spaceship dock onto a satellite or dock onto another station, and the door should open. There should be communication between the cell and the insulin, or insulin and the cell, and the sugar molecules leave the insulin, the carrier, and they go into the cell. The cell opens up, and then the cell metabolizes the sugar. That is the healthy non-diabetic reaction. Well, what happens before we even get to the sugar over our lifetime, this healthy, clear cell, through the fried chicken and the oil, the saturated fat in the chicken, the fried catfish, the fast food, the processed foods, the deep oils that we fry in, and the list goes on and on. The trans fats, the butter, the margarine, these cells become clogged. They become what's called lipid toxic, right? Lipid is the word for oil, lipids, right? Lipid toxic. They become oil toxic, right? And so this goes from a clear and becomes what would seem to be brownish, right? Or if I was to put this up by my head instead of clear, now the cell is cloudy, and now the insulin approaches, but it can't communicate because the cell is lipid toxic. And because it cannot communicate, it cannot open and allow the sugar to enter the cell. The cell is, at that point, insulin resistant and does not allow the full communication and the cycle to happen. And then the effect of that is the sugar is allowed to travel into the bloodstream. And this happens over and over and over again, and your blood sugar levels begin to rise. Now, if you just treat the rising blood sugar, you are, in the analogy we started with, you are mopping up the floor because you are not dealing with the origin of the issue. The origin of the issue is not the rising blood sugar. The origin of the issue is the oil and the saturated fats clogging your cells. So, how do we deal with that? How do we do that? We have to change and rearrange what we are putting on our plates that eventually go into our mouths. So how do we reduce the amount of saturated fats? And then at the same time, and we don't want this to become complicated, at the same time, how do we raise the level of fiber, right? Which acts as an internal cleanser. It also helps different mechanisms bind. It also serves as a great way for gut bacteria to grow and to feed. And then our gut bacteria strengthens our immune system. And then it also strengthens our lymphatic system, which is how we get rid of waste. And so now that we trigger better waste, we can clean ourselves, right? How do we do that? And that's by raising the level, not just raising the level of plants, because we've talked about forever, add some broccoli, make sure you have a vegetable with that meal, but it's not just raising your level of plants, but it's also decreasing the amount of animal. So raise the level of plants, decrease the amount of animal-centered foods on our plate, and then we began to help the body go into a more healing environment. So now our cells, just like, we can feel it, because when you add more vegetables, you begin to eliminate more. And the elimination starts at the cellular level. So with the elimination starting at the cellular level, that means that our cells are getting rid of the waste. And I share with my clients, a lot of them are like, well, some of them are not overweight, and they'll say, well, I don't want to lose weight. Or, the people who do want to lose weight. But what I share with them in the beginning of the process, the way to see it is not that you're losing weight, is that you're losing waste. You are losing waste. And so we are carrying with us fats and oils that complicate the bioprocesses that our bodies need to have so that we function at an optimal level. Okay, so let's back up for a moment. Okay, we want to talk about, or we are talking about, and using diabetes type 2 as an example of how we can stop mopping up the sink, the overflowing water, and turn off the faucet. Because the idea is we don't want the water to overflow. But mopping up the sink is a labor that is continuous unless you turn off the sink. And so you can actually walk yourself back from the diabetic condition. You can lessen it, you can mitigate it, and you can really put yourself on a healthier trajectory just by changing the complexion or the combination of your plate for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, and for the snacks that you're eating. I'll never forget, my dad was diabetic for, I don't know, maybe 35, 40 years. And by the time he was willing to accept and really work at a plant-based diet, he was 82. And we started at 82. Matter of fact, we started at the end of January. His birthday was the 20th. So we started right after his 82nd birthday. And my dad was on, oh goodness, 21 medications a day. He had the box, and he had to have 7. It might have been more than 21, but at least 7 in the morning, 7 in the afternoon, and 7 in the evening. And I was just familiar with his routine because, every 3 to 4 weeks, we had to distribute new medications and put them in the pill box. So he was at least digesting 21 or more meds every day. And some of them were the same med, but he had to take them 2, or he had to have them 3 times a day. So his basket of pill bottles was enormous. And then he had the dispenser where he could go in and methodically, take the meds 3 times a day. So we started after his 82nd birthday, and he was, I don't want to say excited, but he was willing. I guess you get to a point where you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Prior to this, he had fallen out in the basement of the home where he and my mom lived. And she would call me and say, your dad is falling out again. We have to take him to the hospital. And so he would have these blackout spells because my dad had heart disease. He was a diabetic. He was a cancer survivor. I mean, if you ticked off the lifestyle diseases that my parents had, you would have to hit each box. You'd have to hit each box. And so we took about 90 days to start with. And in those 90 days, we were able to reduce his meds from 21 a day to 9. And that was in 90 days of simply rearranging his plate, taking the animal foods off, removing the Popeyes fried chicken, taking the omelet and cheese out every morning. Story goes on and on. The chicken sandwich, the fried foods, and fresh fruits and vegetables. My dad loves strawberries. There's just so much to the story. So I want to bottom line this. You can reach us at pbacenterfornutrition.org. That's our website, pbacenterfornutrition.org. You can email us at plantbasedafrican with a K at gmail.com. We'd love to talk with you, dialogue with you. We can turn off instead of continuing to mop up around it. My name is Sadiq Colquitt. It has been a pleasure talking with you this evening, and we look forward to helping you be the healthiest you can be. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Alex Trebek stage.
G Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Sorry about that. I was just very excited listening to the music, background music. So my name is Jerome Hardaway. Everybody calls me Jay. I am the head geek at Vetsu Code. I prefer that over executive director. What I do is for the past 10 years, well, not today makes 11, teach veterans how to write software and get jobs in, the software engineering craft. To date, I've done 305 veterans, and I've done $20.1 million in salaries. So it's not too shabby, and I'm just getting started. I have at least another 20 years of doing this. When I'm not doing that, I'm building enterprise software engineering products or civic technology products, coming from a long line of big tech from Microsoft to CBS, Paramount, everywhere that you've probably touched an app that I've written code on. Also, before I say anything, I am prior Air Force and I'm security forces. So don't let that scare you all away from me and think that I'm like just some big super nerd. I'm a little nerd, not a big nerd. But today I am here to answer a lot of questions in regards to AI, especially around veterans, because even though we usually adapt fast on a lot of things on the battlefield, we're not really adapting fast in the AI landscape in today's market, particularly with trying to prepare for our jobs, for the job market in 2025 and beyond. So I'm going to spend this hour or so at answering a lot of questions that you all need to know. So first, number one question I get asked every day is AI going to take your job? No. We just saw this week where Klarna that thought like 8 months ago that AI was going to be good enough to replace all of its customer service, and soon you only have like a 5 person company. Now he's having to rehire all those people back because Klarna could not do customer service at the same level of quality that you could when it came to having humans in between the loop, which is one of the first things that we try to teach the CEO down the street, is that you have to have people in the loop to monitor, to fine tune these tools and resources. But for some strange reason, the CEO down the street only sees dollar signs and they don't pay attention to the things that we tell them until they start losing money because the thing is expensive and your customers are leaving for, being able to speak to an actual human. So first things first, going back to my own personal experience of, just this weekend, I tried to vibe code, which is essentially, without knowing the language or tool that I'm using, build a thing. I tried to do that with iOS app this weekend because, I have 12 years of software engineering experience. I've worked on billion-dollar projects all the time. Of course I can do this. An hour into it, because it was some stuff I've never done, I was woefully and hilariously out of my depth. I couldn't even get the thing to start. It was so embarrassing that you'd be like, "Hey, you sure you've taught people how to get paid to do this stuff?" And like, at this point, nah. So that is the number one question everybody asks me. Just to let y'all know, no, your jobs are safe. However, they are not safe from people who understand and do use AI to accelerate their productivity and upskilling on the job that you're competing with. So you have to start anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes every day, trying to make yourself more comfortable seeing where AI fits in your professional or casual workflows from home to work. I use AI all the time when it comes to just getting time to learn a new thing and speed that process of not knowing anything about something to knowing a little something about something and learning more, right? So that is what you should definitely do. I always recommend 7 minutes a day, 7 days a week for 7 weeks. You will start making it a habit, and you will start soon to be comfortable, and you'll be able to start doing your own workflows. You might discover a new way or a smarter way or a better way to do something, and you don't know until you try. One of the best free tools out there to use to get your hands wet, to get your feet wet, get comfortable, is Google Gemini. If you have Google at Google Gemini, Gemini.google.com, they usually have their Gemini application. It is free and pretty robust. You can get a lot of things out of it for free. So that is a super cool place to start. And then as you get more comfortable, go to ChatGPT, go to Anthropic, go to Perplexity. Perplexity is a goat out there when it comes to AI tools. I learned about Perplexity when it came from Perplexity from other military veterans, and all of them were women veterans, and they all use it, and they were talking about how it helps them so much with search and shopping. And I was like, well, let me figure out what this is about, because I'm not, the biggest shopper or anything of that nature. But if, all the women are saying that this app slaps and it will save them money, then in their day-to-days, then I'm going to go and figure this app out. And it's the only app I have made purchasing decisions from based upon what that app has recommended. And I do not regret it. I'm like, yo, this was awesome. Next question everybody asked me is, where do I go to learn AI? One of the best places to start is either, I tell my troops, read the docs. I know that's very hard to tell people. People want to go on YouTube or TikTok or things of that nature, but documentation is still king in being able to do things. So my father taught me that everything that they want to keep from you is between the pages of a book. And that is the same when it comes to AI, software engineering, and documentation. Everything they want to keep from you, everything that's going to really, level you up, is going to be in those boring, hard to read things. And then they're going to get distilled as they get, separated out for engagement from long form and short form content. So if you really want to be good at this stuff, pay the tax of actually reading the long, hard, boring crap, right? So that's something that I recommend even to my own kids. Like, if you want to get good, you're going to have to pay that tax and read something that you don't want to read. Another question that is always asked: do I need to learn how to code to be able to be good leveraging AI? No. There is this format, is particularly when you're dealing with these tools of ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Perplexity, Google Gemini, called prompt engineering, where you are guiding through a series of steps in plain English of things you want to do and figure out. So there are great books out there on it from O'Reilly, Pact Publishing. also has great books on prompt engineering that you can read that will supercharge whatever you do. And there are so many things you can do from there, from learning how to use Excel to learning how to I just used it this weekend to learn how to put like a super bougie charcuterie board together for my wife for Mother's Day. And I learned about, toasted brie and roasted green apples with red wine. I did not know what that was. I am, once again, a security forces dude. This is not something that they teach in my MLS. But I was able to use AI to learn about that and see pictures and go to like blogs and make a pretty Instagrammable spread for my wife, and she loved it. She loved her other presents more, but like she actually liked the food too. So like all these are, well, that's just one way. You just use your natural plain language of English to be able to go through a series of steps and be able to walk yourself through. Another question that people have been asking me lately is, what is the most untalked about part of artificial intelligence? And I think this is very important, particularly with this conversation. It is the process of how good these tools are for accelerating your small businesses. When you're listening to these conversations and these tools about AI this, AI that, all you hear is about really the Big 10, the Big 50, the Fortune 500, right? But they're not talking about the little guy. They're not, because they don't really make a lot of money from the tools that they're selling to the consumer. All the money is in API usage and embedding it into software tools. It's, I'm embedding AI into Klarna. That's when Microsoft makes its money, or Amazon makes its real buck, right? But for you, the user, the small business owner, the person who's just owns his own nonprofit, something like that, or operates on a nonprofit, they don't really talk about you, right? Because they don't make a lot of money off you. But it's a absolute game changer of what you can do leveraging artificial intelligence tools at a fraction of cost, when particularly amplifying and training it for the things that you do. With Vet2Code, for example, I have been a heavy AI user when it comes to anywhere from workshopping my programs, workshopping blogs, course curriculum, blogs externally, my video courses on LinkedIn Learning, or Front-End Masters. Because of that, between 2021 and now, we have made almost $150,000 in just extra revenue, not donations, revenue, for Vet2Code year over year when it came to projects, right? People license me out for my LinkedIn Learning course. I use LinkedIn Learning, use AI to, help me workshop that. My Front-End Masters course, I use AI to help me workshop some of the things and, improve the language, make it more engaging. I have a blog on GitHub that was in 2023 the number 1 blog they had in the world for that year, because which is pretty cool for $1 billion company to say you wrote this. I was like, yes, and I workshopped it with artificial intelligence. So for tools where I am spending on average about, I would say maybe $500-$600 a year, they have paid for themselves time and time over. So I highly recommend that if you are a small business owner, if you are a nonprofit director, or if you're just, if you're a kid in college who's thinking about, who's trying to think of their, their next steps because you just got out of the military, or you're thinking about exiting the military, because one of the things that we do is with AI is you can connect it to the web with these chatbots, and you can, pull real experiences on how to prepare for the outside world. It's much better than what anybody ever got in TAPS. Like, because let's be honest, like we've all had TAPS is trash for everybody. So I would rather trust ChatGPT with my military transition than I would ever trust the military with my military transition, per my own personal experience. So that's a great way to use anything of those tools. One of my favorite things when it comes to AI, particularly if you're thinking about buying AI, either if you're using Google Gemini AI or ChatGPT, is that you can make and Google is called gems and ChatGPT is called GPTs, but you can essentially fine tune and train these tools to be able to like just focus only and solely on the thing that you're doing. I like to buy resources all the time, buy a PDF format and turn it into a knowledge base that is stored data for my GPT, and then be like, hey, from this point on, this GPT is focused on this, particularly if it's a lot of tasks that I have to do over and over. For instance, great example, you have you do prospecting at a nonprofit, so you have to have 990s, right? Your development team does that, right? What you could do instead of going through 990s and 990 PFs and stuff in prospect is you can build an AI gem and use prompt engineering, and you can even have your AI, your ChatGPT, help you work with the prompts in order to say, here are all the things I need to get from this to be able to do this. And then from there, you're able to whenever you upload a 990, you can get all the information you need off the 990. Now, I highly recommend to use Google Gemini with this. It's one of the places where they really shine, because if you're, for instance, a nonprofit, you get Google for Nonprofits free. And they also have access to Google Gemini tools for free. And as a result, you can have Google Gemini do that AI task for you, and then automatically turn it into a Google Sheet or automatically turn it into a Google Doc and go from there. And the better and the more efficient you are at it, the faster you're going to get. And you can literally build things up for just these one specialized task. Or you could do deep research. You could throw all of your data, all your research. So for instance, for me, with all of the deep research parameters of Anthropic and ChatGPT, I have over 11 years of data from Vetsu Code. And I have been building a knowledge base on how to train over 305 people to get the exact same good result. Because right now my percentage rate is around 92 to 93% success rate for helping people get jobs in software engineering. And I want to make sure, how do I codify that? How do I make it so it's so much easier for me to do it? So I've been training with deep research. Okay, here's the data that I have. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't work. Here's what I teach that, helps all the time. Here's something that I teach that doesn't work as much. Here's something that I could replace that might have higher impact based on what we're seeing in the market. These are all things that I'm always doing, always being obsessed about. And you can really get to the next level just by using these tools and thinking of that. Like when you're thinking about in a normal place, 10 years worth of data, even if you're a technology focused organization like myself, and if you're not using AI, you're having to pull people in, you have to download a lot of data stuff and then sift through it on your own, versus with a little bit of code and also using deep research, you can get a lot of good parameters, what is needed and how to make things, as I like to call it, army proof, to get people to success points. It makes it super easy, because that's my job. My job is to army proof the success points to get into software engineering. The work is hard, the work is smart, but if I make sure that you're able to understand it, grow it fast, and adapt to it, and do the most successful things, then you're going to be okay, right? So that is just a few ways that I personally use AI. Another a very good question that I always get asked, that I've been asked lately, is about LLMs. What is a LLM? because you hear this stuff, but no one really wants to. None of the nerds want to explain this stuff to you. LLM means large language model. So what that is hey, here's a data set of here's essentially an API. Focus on this data set that is trained on all this stuff. And sometimes we can train it to do certain things based on what we need it to and perform at higher metrics based on what you need it for. And what we usually do is the higher and more expert level the LLM needs to be, the more money it costs, right? So let's say a great example, ChatGPT 3.5. I think it's deprecated by now, but if it's not, it's practically free to use when you build it in the app. But let's go to Claude Sonnet Pro 3.7, right? Because it's so good at software engineering, it's not going to be, it's not as cheap, and it's going to be rate limited. You're not going to be able to use it as much as you'd be able to use a lesser model. And that's one thing they don't tell you is how much how they rate limit models based upon cost, in regards to cost, how much they make off of you from it, as well as cost when it comes to just how much it costs them to run this stuff. One of the funniest conversations that has happened in AI is the ChatGPT $100 Pro plan that they rolled out is actually losing them money. And when asked about why did you choose that price, he was like, I just like the number. I didn't do any data of it. So, funny story. Smart guys make decisions, bad decisions too. But yeah, that's just a few of the things that I have been learning when it comes to AI and things I can be teaching that you all should know. When I think, what else should I be talking to you all in regards to artificial intelligence? Tools, pretty much a lot of the things that you want to use or need to use, especially as a veteran, if you're transitioning out the military or if you're using, for instance, LinkedIn, there's a lot of great AI tools in there. If you just have LinkedIn and you've just got it, you have your access to LinkedIn Learning, which gives you a lot of AI tools built into not only when you're making status requests, it's when you're doing your resume, when you're applying for jobs, things of that nature. That is one of the fastest tools I've done. I can have my troops go through and look and see what jobs they're qualified for, or maybe there are companies that, it might not be 100% for them, but we might have a relationship with. So, we can now grow and be like, okay, let's see what jobs do Vetsu Code people that are hiring right now, the Vetsu Code members work at. And we can search via that. Then we can, do apples to oranges and see, hey, if you're a match for this. And that works, right? That's one of the techniques and tactics that we've been using recently. Another app, I think I keep going back to this, I think because it's on the top of mind because I'll be at Google I/O next month, is Gemini Google AI tools. Not only are they doing cool things when it comes to coding, the fact that it is integrated across their business suite stack so easily, I think it's something that you really don't understand how awesome it is until you start messing with it. To be able to throw a bunch of sheets, a bunch of random documents into, for instance, Notebook LLM, and then turn around and make a whole podcast based off of it is super cool. Or, watching your kids throw all their notes that they took in class into the LLM and then be able to build a paper that shows the highlights, building their own cliff notes, or once again, building, being able to listen to the audio, being able to have that podcast feature that you can do over and over again. Those are all things that I am seeing that just makes it a very exciting time. Being able to go from Google Sheets to Google Drive, summarize emails, because if you're under 40, email is the bane of our existence. Just slack me, bro. I don't want to talk to you via email unless I'm in trouble or you're in trouble, one of the two. And another great AI tool, well, I'm going to go with the AI tool I'm kind of critical with on this one. Apple Intelligence. I have yet to see anything that is super engaging with Apple Intelligence just yet to make it so that, it's something to write home about. But I also just failed miserably using Claude, ChatGPT, and Apple Intelligence trying to make an iOS app over the weekend. So I could be a little biased. So, take that for what it's worth. If we're thinking about your military transition or your, military business, I always think about how one thing that I like AI the most for is copy, because I like to speak in a manner where military people can pick up on the pattern matching that I am a veteran, while also not terrifying civilians of veteran speak. So something like that for your business, being able to make the implicit explicit, as they say, and focus on ensuring, because in this day and age, people don't like to read. People want everything on video, one, and two, even if they do want it, even if they do read straight up, it has to be straight to the point. Because if you don't make it amazing in those first 3 minutes, 3 seconds, they're gonna bounce. Like that's in software engineering, we call that bounce rate for your websites, for your web applications. So you want to keep them from bouncing. So you take your copy or the words on your website, the words on your business, and you just take that information and you ask ChatGPT, hey, I need you to be my professional copywriter. Give background on your company. Say you have a military flair as well, and then you turn around and like, hey, can you make this so that people who are in the military still understand or still get that vibe from me, while also not alienating civilians? That is a great use case that I've used over and over again, because when I do talks, for instance, when I do a talk in Medellin, Colombia, in South America, those people don't have the same experience with military that Americans do, and being able to use that type of technology to be able to reach across cultural aisles and share things that I've done or things that they can they can learn from, without having that blocker of communication or experiences, because I've leveraged AI. That is a great, that's a great experience for everybody involved. In Colombia, the food is crazy good. I know the guy before me was talking about not eating fried foods and stuff. I'm like, go to Medellin, you'll change your mind. Like, there are worse ways to die. Other than that, and if there's anyone in the comments or in chat that has questions, I am open to that. If not, we will move on to just talking about some regular old boring software engineering, because I know people don't really talk about that these days, all the AI stuff. Awesome. So now we're going to move into the software engineering phase, and we'll talk about all the fun and unfun AI stuff. So first things first, software engineering. How I got into software engineering was came out the military at a height of the Great Recession, security forces, thinking, like many people who get out of the military with a DD-214, that you have the golden ticket. No one's going to yell at you over grass anymore. All the jobs going to, open up for you. I was wrong. I was as wrong as you can be with that. Found out that not only were towns or states not hiring for my skill set, the federal government wasn't hiring for my skill set. And I was getting the thing that you absolutely hate when it comes to being a veteran, which is thank you for your service, but you don't have any skills here, which was not what the recruiter said it would happen or what Uncle Sam said. So I was like, what do I do? Through sheer luck of being at home, I saw a commercial of, a dude from Miami Heat, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg, a few other people talking about code. And I was like, this is super cool. What is people talking about? Okay, like whatever. I did a little bit of Googling, noticed that the people that do code, even in recession, they were kind of doing okay. Even now, they're still doing, like, with the market as crazy as it is for software engineers, they're still doing better than others. I was like, okay, cool. That sounds super cool. But I didn't buy it. Then I saw another commercial about ITT Tech, maybe 2 days later, and they were talking about SQL. And I was like, what are these people talking about? Let me go to Barnes and Nobles and get a book. So I went to Barnes and Nobles, got a book on SQL, taught myself SQL or SQL, whichever way y'all prefer to say it. Don't at me when you see this. And my first job within a year of teaching myself SQL was with the Department of Homeland Security. And ironically, I had been told that I wasn't qualified for using the skills I have in the military to join the Department of Homeland Security, but I was qualified. The skill I taught myself in my free time after the military from a book and a computer, a crappy Windows machine at that time. So, am I doing the Oscars music? Or maybe I'm just hearing it. But yeah, I just want to go ahead and let you all know that's my story. And I'm Jerome Hardaway, and I will talk to you later.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.